this to the cloud so they don't miss anything. All right, now let me introduce our special speaker. Adele Revella's book, Buyer Persona, How to Gain Insights into Customers' Expectations, Align Your Marketing Strategies, and Win More Business, is the volume. That's all you need to do is find that book and read it to understand what it is, what it is not, how to do it right, and everything that flows from it when you get it right. Now, I learned about this book through Doug Burdett. As you know, I've mentioned Doug a number of times. This was the 10th interview that he did of the now 250 interviews. And when he spoke to my graduates last fall, this book was one he said, if you get this book and you use it, it'll give you super powers as a marketer. She also heads up the Buyer Persona Institute. So when I'm telling you she's an expert in buyer personas, I'm not messing around. Without any further ado, let me turn this over to Adele and let her take it from here.
Oh, hey, Tom. Well, thank you. Well, that's quite the introduction. So you guys are going to school on Zoom, huh? How's that? Not so fun. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, the work that I've been doing around buyer personas is based on the fact that I grew up in the tech industry. So way back before most of you were born, probably any of you was born, in the early 70s, I ended up in the computer industry kind of by accident. This was about the time that some of the experts were saying that there would never be a need for more than 10 computers in the whole world. I'll just let that sink in. Have you guys heard that? Like that was in the 70s, that was the prediction. I bet you most of you on this call today have more than 10 computers, right? If you consider your phone, yeah, which by the way, it is. This is a computer. So I've been working in tech all my life, and I started off in sales and marketing. And I'll tell you what, the one thing I figured out right away was if you know what your buyer wants, you can pretty much sell and market to them almost anything. So maybe Doug's right. Maybe that is like a superpower, And of course, there's a lot of ways people abuse that. People get to know your persona and then they sell you stuff that doesn't even work, right? You guys, anybody ever bought anything that didn't work because it was marketed so well? And so, what I'm assuming that all of you are looking for legitimate jobs in marketing. And what that's about is that you've already got a great product. That's table stakes. Having the best product is just like what you got to have, or you're not going to win any business. But the next thing you got to have to sell that product is a way to understand what about that matters to the buyer. And so that's the work I do. It's quite simple. It's just figuring out by listening to people, by doing interviews with real buyers who have just bought something, what mattered to them about that. And it's a really simple idea. I don't know how many of you would get very excited. Would you get excited about getting on the phone and interviewing somebody you didn't know? Let's see a show of hands. How many think that would be fun? One hand, maybe two. Yeah. So that's the challenge, right? I mean, not everybody's going to like to do this. When I started this company, I started it as a training company. I used to own a training company, and I thought, I'll just go train everybody to interview buyers. And then I found out, like most people on this Zoom call today, most people think that they'd rather get a root canal without Novocaine. So the trick is that that's really the way you get to know what people want, is by asking them. And, let's see, how many of you would be willing to go to an event? Let's assume COVID's gone. Everybody want to assume that for 10 minutes? It's really fantasized. COVID's gone. There's a big party tonight, and you're going to go there, and there's going to be at least half the people you don't know at all. And so how many of you would still be excited about going to that party and talking to people you don't know there? Come on, you guys, are you really there? Man. You don't want to go to a party? COVID is gone. It's like magic. It's gone. Yeah, okay, at least a few people.
Think about school before COVID showed up.
Yeah, going to school. Like going to school and just meeting people you don't know And so, again, there's people who are just so shy that the idea of going and talking to people they don't know is terrifying. But that's what this is about. And it is, at the end of the day, like a superpower. Because as a marketer, Tom, is it fair to say all these people are studying marketing?
Yes, these are all marketing majors. This is the capstone class that they are required to take.
So have you guys been asked yet to build messaging for the product that you're going to market in your your project? Have you ever had to come up with the messages or think about what you should say to the buyers? Yeah. Hard, huh? It's really hard. And the way most people do that is they want to know what the product does, and what's best about it. And then that's what they talk about. Well, there's a third element of that, and it is what's best and your product does. Which part of that matters to people who are buying that product? And that's a big, deep, dark secret. The reason that people are so excited about this work, and we do work for Dell, and you guys know who Dell is, and Cisco and Amazon. And the reason they come to us and ask us to do these interviews is because, like you, they don't want to do them themselves. The marketers are like, I don't want to call up people I don't know and talk to them. But somebody's got to do it, because it's the only way to avoid guesswork about how to market your product. And guessing is error prone. You ever try to guess on a test? Well, ask it, how's that work out for you, right? Versus if you ask the buyers in advance what they want and what they like about the product that they're buying, it's like cheating on the test. It's like they tell you in advance, these are all the things that matter to us. And now all you have to do is go talk about that part. And that's why I have I'm not sharing slides today, but when I do, one of them is it's like cheating, and I dedicated my book to everybody, every marketer who questions the wisdom of making stuff up. I tried to say making shit up, but the publisher didn't like me to say that in the foreword to the book. So, but that's what we talk about. I mean, that's really what the essence of it is. As marketers, we can either sit around and make shit up and talk about what we think is important, or we can go find out what the buyers think is important. And then that's what we talk about. So Tom, I don't know, I could go on just talking, but do you have some questions for me that you'd like me
sure.
to?
My first question would be, again, these students are all graduating, becoming professional marketers. So when they go to their jobs, what information, advice can you give them about buyer personas that they could take and maybe use to become more effective?
Yeah. Well, great question. So when I'm hiring people, and I don't know how many marketers, I used to be a chief marketing officer for 3 different tech companies, and and I hire a lot of people in my company. And the first thing I want to hear them say is, I'm not going to make this stuff up. I'm going to go insist that I find out through whatever resources I have. And hey, potential employer, what are you guys doing to get insight, real insight into what the buyers care about? Because I want to be a part of a company that's going to care about their customer. You guys probably know the Jeff Bezos story about the empty chair. Do you all know how Amazon, have you guys ever heard that story about Jeff Bezos and when he started Amazon and the empty chair? They heard that, Tom?
I might have mentioned it once before, but share that story. I love that story because to me, Amazon is the most customer-centric company, and their success is attributed to that. So share that story.
I mean, everybody knows, most people know, I mean, it's legend now that Amazon started selling books out of the garage online, bookstore. Like, what a stupid idea. I'm going to guess that almost everybody on this call buys things on Amazon every day, and it's not just books. And when he started that company, at every meeting where he had his management team, he'd have an empty chair. And he would tell the management team, that chair is for the customer. The customer needs a seat at the table. Every decision we make needs to be about the customer. And so today, if you read an update to that, he'll tell you that chair's not empty anymore. That chair is now occupied by somebody whose full-time job is to know what the customer wants. And to sit in that meeting, and when the sales guy's saying, well, we want to sell this, and marketing saying, we want to promote that, there's a person sitting in that chair saying, yeah, but what does the customer want? So, if I was interviewing you, I'd be saying to you, I'd want to hear you talking about that. I'd want to hear you saying, I understand the importance of the customer perspective, that competition is about making the customer experience better. Because nobody, and you guys, I grew up in tech. I grew up in the days when, technology innovations were just happening at the speed of light. And every year there was some tech company coming out saying, we've got the best technology. But I can tell you that today, it's really hard for companies to differentiate themselves based on what their products do. People keep improving their products. And I don't know, you guys have all received new and improved updates on your iPhone, right? Like, oh, we just improved your iPhone operating system. And you're like, you just made it 10 times harder for me to do what I wanted to do. So improving the product is no longer a competitive advantage. And that if I'm hiring you, that's what I want to hear. How are you going to help me make this company more competitive? And I want, the answer I'd want to hear is, I'm going to be a part of that. I'm going to either drive that initiative, or I'm going to pay attention to the initiative that's already underway. If you guys are gaining customer insights, then I'm going to want to pay attention to those in every strategy I develop. And that's what's going to get you hired in a company I work for.
I do remember Doug Burdett mentions a listener from Europe who sent him an email and said, hey, I've just been promoted into marketing. I've never worked as a marketer. What advice could you give me? He goes, I'll tell you what, a lot of companies don't really care about talking to customers, or they don't know much about them. Why don't you be the guy that's going to be the customer insight guy? Long story short, they kept promoting him because he earned a seat at the executive table because he became that Amazon customer specialist. And
yeah,
on the other side, Adele, I'm sure you remember this article from the Harvard Business Review. Michael Porter wrote it about how CEOs spend their time. Only 3% are spending their time with customers.
Yeah.
97% are not.
Well, and those 3% that are spending time with customers, they're spending time with their best customers, the people who already bought from them, the people who love them and will tell them, oh my gosh, you're the greatest thing in the whole world. The customers that I want you guys to understand are the people who don't think you're the best in the whole world. Because guess what? Marketing is about changing people's perceptions and winning their business. And just getting the business from people who already love you, it just isn't good enough. Why should I spend, a lot of money on your salary to have you help me get business from people who are already going to buy from us anyway? So nobody, the truth is, with great respect for Mr. Porter, the truth is nobody in the normal course of their job, not the CEO, nobody else, is spending time to understand what matters to a market full of buyers who haven't yet chosen from us. Even salespeople who spend all day long talking to customers, they think of one customer at a time. They're trying to win this deal and that deal and this deal and that deal. Nobody in the company has the job to be the expert on what the market full of buyers wants. So it's like a way to just be the person that nobody in your company could live without.
This is solid gold. If you think about Adele, they could, again, when I was VP sales and marketing, imagine if I got a letter from a college graduate, we know you're in the automotive parts remanufacturing business. I went out and I interviewed 10 installers, big installers, small installers, 10 parts stores, big and small. Here's the insights I learned about that could help you. Once, blah, 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 this, dot. I'd love the opportunity to discuss this further. That's one way to not be stuck in those LinkedIn job searches with thousands and thousands of people. This is a way for you to get in as a customer insight, bring these customer insights even before you start working in the business. Now, let me ask you this question, Adele. Could you maybe quickly review the 5 rings of insight?
Yeah.
Because again, I'm going to recommend every one of my students purchase this book. You can get it on Kindle for about $12. So that's rock solid. And especially with graduation coming up, I've given you a number of books. You put this on the list, put it up near the top, because this is a key book for your success in the future. But let Adele share these 5 rings of insight, because this is where the power comes from.
Yeah. So when we're really trying to look for patterns across the market, I had to develop a model that people could use to look for patterns. And so there's 5 categories of insight, 5 types of insights that you should be looking for around your buyers. First of all, we call it priority initiatives, but these are the drivers. These are the triggers. These are the things that get people to say, the status quo is unacceptable. I'm going to go exercise more and lose weight, and this is about interviewing people who have done that to say, what was really motivating you to do that? Because I mean, I'm like everybody else on this call, I'm sitting in front of a computer all day. What actually the researcher needs to find out, what's the motivation for change? That's called priority initiatives. The second category of insight we look for, we call it success factors. This is your buyer defining success. This is your buyer saying, hey, if I buy this, this is how much better my life is going to be. I got a smartwatch for my birthday. No, it's not an Apple Watch. It's just a fossil watch. And it's like, somebody would come and interview me. I'd tell them the main thing I loved about getting a smartwatch is having that vibration on my wrist when I got a text or an alert, and I could just glance at my wrist without having to go pick up my phone and just see who it's from and do I need to pay attention to it right now. That's a success factor insight. The third category of insight is actually my favorite. This is what we call it perceived barriers. This is the bad news insight. This is what keeps people, prevents them from buying this product. Why don't they go exercise? Why don't they buy a smartwatch? What do they perceive as the risks or what would go wrong if they made this purchase? I don't know if you've ever gone on I'm trying to think of some place that you went or bought something that you ended up hating. It's like people, that's one of the things that gets in the way of people buying, and you want to find out what that is. The fourth category of insight, we call it decision criteria. And these are all the questions people have before they buy. How's it going to work? Am I going to be able to can I return it? Am I going to be able to get support for it? Is it going to last a long time? All those questions that buyers ask and need answers from marketing, on your website or in your marketing content. All of those questions are decision criteria insights. And then the fifth category of insight, we call it buyer's journey. And you've probably already heard about the customer journey or buyer's journey. But this is where you look at, from the interviews of buyers who have actually bought this recently, really, what was their journey? What steps did they take? Did they go to Amazon and read reviews? Did they ask their friends? Did they go read white papers, or what did they do before they made that decision? And who was involved? I don't know what kind of products you'll end up marketing, but if you want to market tech like I do, I love technology, I've loved it for my whole life. There's a lot of people involved in every buying decision. There's a buying committee. So if you're going to do B2B marketing or B2C, there's a difference in who's involved in that decision. And that's what you document in the buyer's journey. So those 5 categories of insight, and in each of those categories, you might have 3, 4, 6, 10 or more insights, like patterns you find, 10 or more questions people are asking, 10 or more success factors. So this is a whole bunch of rich insight that nobody in that company has. And you can be the person that's so special that you have it. And or you can try to find a company to go to work for that's doing this so that you've got that secret sauce. So you don't have to come into your new job and make shit up. It's okay if I say that, Tom? It's okay if I say...
Hey, it's fantastic. I say it
okay.
all the time.
Okay.
That's good. Yeah, our class is cool with the word shit.
Okay.
We like that. We got all kinds of speakers and we love it. Now, let me ask you this question. The book will help every one of my students learn how to do this, right? The processes.
Yeah, so I'm a teacher at heart. My last company was a training company. And so a lot of business books, they just tell you all these case studies and this is great and you need to do this. But actually the middle third of my book has step-by-step every single thing you need to do to find people to interview, to do the interviews, to look for insights across those 5 categories, and then how to use those insights. So I really wrote this it's not an academic book. I'd never written a book, you guys. I hated writing a book. It was the worst year of my life. How many people on this call want to write a book someday? Like, God bless you. It was torture for me. I would have rather done anything than write a book, but I was desperate for people to have this knowledge because there's so much junk out there about buyer personas, about just making stuff up. And I don't get why anybody would bother sitting down, making stuff up so that you could make stuff up about the stuff you made up. I mean, it defies logic to me why anybody would think that was a good idea. So yeah, so the book will tell you exactly what to do.
Or to base strategies around stuff they made up, which is even scarier.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So students, here's a way to really stand out amongst your competition, i.e. those other people looking for the job that you're trying to find. So look, everybody, you've heard me and Adele talk now. I want you to ask questions. Just unmute yourself or put it into the chat box. I don't want to be stealing the show. You might have some questions here. I know the first question I had before I shut up, because I said I was going to shut up. Adele, when you interview on behalf of a company, do you say who you're working for, or do you feel keeping that quiet gives you better insights?
Yeah, with our work, we never reveal who our customer is, because it allows people, like if we don't say, if we're doing an interview for Cisco around security, we don't say it's Cisco, because it could be Palo Alto or it could be any one of their competitors. And that way the person we're interviewing is more open and candid with us. But truthfully, Tom, if these guys are going to go working for a company, they're probably going to have to do this for their employer, and they'll probably have to reveal it. So it's ideal if you don't reveal it. And I love the idea of, if you've got a job you really want, how many people here want to go to work for Google?
Joe raised his hand.
Yeah. So if you want to go to work for Google, or if your dream job is a particular company, I would follow Tom's advice. I'd go try to do some interviews and go into that meeting. And, with being humble and saying, look, I'm not an expert. I'm not trying to come in here as an expert. I'm just telling you that I'm committed to understanding customers, so much so that to prepare for this interview, I went and interviewed some customers. And here's what I learned. And, that is a golden idea, Tom, to get a job. I'd hire you in a heartbeat if I knew you.
Stand out. And it's so competitive now. It's so competitive now. Hey,
yeah.
Who's going to ask a question? I said, anybody want to ask a question? And I asked one. So, Kelly, go ahead.
So what do you think, like on our side, like what do you think are the best questions to ask a company in an interview?
to ask in the interview itself. Yeah.
Yes.
So, I think the most important thing to ask, to try to find out in the interview, because I don't like scripted questions. I feel like if you go in there with your heart in the right place and you're willing to talk about what you bring to the job, that's the most important thing. It's more important than what questions you ask, is your being ability to know that company well enough and to know yourself well enough to be able to say, this is what I can bring to you. Now, asking that hiring manager about what they think is important that you should bring, like I really wanted asking them to describe for you what they think, what they're going to expect of you and what their goals are for somebody that they're hiring in this position, gives you even a little bit of back and forth place then where you can catch something they're saying and then follow up with and say, oh, well, that's a really good match for my passion around this. So, but doing your research ahead of time, I mean, honestly, go on LinkedIn and look up the person who's going to be interviewing you in advance and get some background on that person. What have been their interests and what have they cared about and what's been their career? And then being able to have that conversation with them, like, well, I noticed you've worked in this company for 10 years, as somebody who's looking for a long-term career in your company, what are some of the things that that you found of value over the 10 years you've been here? Or maybe they've only been there a year, and, coming new into the company like that. But you're going to know that because you will have looked them up. So looking like somebody, I think the most important thing is looking like somebody who prepares for a job. You don't just go in and just suddenly, okay, I'm here, like hire me, man,
Yeah. When they put the mirror under your nose, make sure it fogs up, please.
Yeah.
All right. Who else has a question?
Good question.
You have a CMO of big tech. She's worked in tech her whole life. So Adele is also the expert on personas. Now's the time to ask questions, folks. We're not going to keep this on forever. So my graduates, soon to be graduates, ask away. Here's your chance. The expert on this. Joe's raising his hand. Joe.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm marketing, but I'm also like a minor in business analytics. Like I'm focusing on like the data side. So like tech is actually like more of what I'm looking into. Like I was wondering if you personally had any advice for like trying to get into like a tech company like that.
Yeah, so that's good because what you're showing with your focus on data analytics is that you're really aligned with everything I've been saying on this whole call. And I think and it'll be different for different hiring managers. And so you kind of have to suss that out a little bit. That's why I always like to get them talking just a bit so I can make sure I'm pursuing a direction that they're interested in, or knowing a little bit about the company and their emphasis on, maybe part of their product is doing analytics, which is gold, because then you can talk about your passion and why you decided to go into that aspect of marketing. But you're a smart guy, Joe, because increasingly everything you'll see about marketing is its increased attention on data and analytics. And I mean, honestly, I can remember decades where we just kind of made shit up and we just flew by the seat of our pants. And, there's just like everybody somehow put up with that. And, there's just, and of course, the average tenure for a lot of marketing executives is like 18 months. It's the lowest of any C-level job on the planet. Now, why is that? It's because when you don't look at the data or care about the data, then nobody trusts that you're doing anything. And pretty soon somebody looks around and says, oh, that guy over there, let's just dump him. Why do we need him? We can't tell what he did. So you're a smart guy, Joe.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Right.
just go for that. Yeah.
Anybody else? I don't want to keep this going too long. Adele's calling us from California, man. It's lunchtime out there. She might have
No,
lunch.
no. Seattle, Washington, San Juan Island.
I thought you were out in California. I know you, wherever you are, you're in a beautiful place.
San Juan Island in the Puget Sound. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Whew. That's awesome. So I'm sure. Whose turn? One more question and we'll close this down. Who wants to go last? Come on.
People, you guys are going to have to get more assertive and to have your jobs, just so
Yeah,
you know.
come on. Yeah, I don't know. Normally we're not so bashful. I don't know what got on this week. Got on to.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead. Shoot away.
So like you just kind of mentioned, I know with marketing, it's kind of hard. Like people don't really understand or see something physical that you're doing. So often they kind of just are like, all right, we'll get rid of them because I don't know what they're doing.
Mhm.
As like a soon-to-be graduate going into that field with COVID, I know a lot of companies are trying to cut back and stuff. Do you have any like suggestions or like tips or advice on like when looking for a job, like what to do? Because I feel like with marketing, it's so hard because you don't get the credit you deserve. They don't really see what you do. It's more behind the scenes.
Yeah, no, exactly, Megan. And so first of all, not all industries are negatively affected by COVID. As a matter of fact, tech in particular, very positively affected by COVID. So first of all, I hope you'll look for marketing jobs in industries that are actually thriving in this pandemic, because there's plenty of them. And now that the economy is starting to come back, I would say this is a great time to be looking for a job. There's a lot of optimism in business as a whole about customers spending money. And that's good for business and it's good for marketing. And then apart from looking for a job in a company that's thriving, is go in there with an attitude that, you're going to find a way to make a difference. So I'll tell you guys a secret. So I don't have any like school training in marketing. I went to work for a bank, that Wells Fargo Bank, a division that wanted to invest in technology. And this was in the 70s. And I raised my hand, and I'm really a pretty low level person in this company. And I said, I'll go learn about tech. That sounds interesting. And I just started, it's finding more information and getting more insight into what tech was about. I happened to, hit a nerve. I thought it was fascinating. So, the point in your guys' career, and then I evolved into, I'd like to sell or market tech, and I had to go learn about that. And I, went to work for companies that would train me. I'll give you guys the advice I've always given the people who work for me. When you're young, go to work for a big company. They'll train you. I know a lot of you probably want to work in small companies and be entrepreneurial even. Give yourself 10 years in medium to big size companies before you do that. Because what you most need to do, I don't know if you've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, probably one of my favorite books around how to find the right job and have a successful career. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I can't remember the author's name. Sorry. And, but sorry.
He's Robert Kiyosaki, something like that.
Yeah, Kawasaki.
Yes, that's it. Kawasaki. Yeah. And fabulous advice for when you're your age. Go to work for a big company. Whatever needs to get done, raise your hand. I'll go learn about that. Get in a company that's growing, get in a company that's doing something, that's going somewhere, and then be the person who raises their hand and says, just like you did now, Megan, there's 30 people on here. It's like, be the one who raises your hand. What can I do? How can I learn about that? That's what's going to make you stand out. Because honestly, I didn't study marketing in college. I didn't study research in college. I didn't understand any of this. It's just about your willingness to step up. I'll go figure it out. I'll go learn about it. Give the job to me, man. And you will always have a job.
And now you're the worldwide authority on buyer personas.
Who knew?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Adele, thank you so much for graciously agreeing to this. Students, I want everybody to say thank you as well. And I really appreciate this. And Adele, I'm going to send this out on social media as an official thanks. So everybody say thank you and take care.
Thank you, everybody. Really,
Thank you.
good luck to all of you. Take
Thanks.
care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.